All right, you guys, welcome back to the channel. Jonathan here with another report on the Charlie Kirk shooting. This is not the rabbit trail that I was told you I was going to go down. I've actually been warned to be careful what I say. There are certain words, just like with the CV-19, there's certain words that are banned now, and you can't say. So I got to be very careful. But on this one, I still, because two things stood out to me, and I'm focusing on that right now. The weapon that was used, we know it was not a 30-06. We've established that. I came out very early, like at day one, and said there's no way this could be a 30-06. Okay, so we're gonna re-examine some things. I'm gonna show you the weapon that I think was used, or something very similar to that. It's the very same weapon that killed John F. Kennedy. It's very concealable. Uh, and it's deadly. It's one of the most accurate pistols that fire a high velocity round in the world. And this round travels like 3,800 feet per second. So we're going to look at that. But first, I want to see what Roger Stone said over on Redacted. He's with Clayton Morris here, one of the channels that I love to watch, saying basically the same thing. I said, this reminds me of John F. Kennedy. Let's watch.
Seems we're getting more questions than answers into the assassination of Charlie Kirk. The FBI wants us to believe their official narrative. Tyler Robinson was the shooter. He's not cooperating with police. And within that short timeline, they managed to lock up the case. Nothing to see here. He's a lone gunman. He fired a 30-06 round into Charlie Kirk. Where's the exit wound? Why was Charlie Kirk receiving death threats? We now learn just a few days before he was assassinated. His right-hand man, Frank, who was there in the car holding his body as he had.
Not only that, you guys, but why was there a book put out like days before he was shot? So there's all kinds of things that stand out on this, just like with JFK, that do not make sense.
Passed away, admitted that Charlie was receiving death threats in the days ahead of time, and he told him to increase his security detail. We're also learning some interesting information about that security detail, the Schaefer Group. We wanted to bring in Roger Stone. He's the best-selling author of The Man Who Killed Kennedy, the case against LBJ. Roger knows all about how people can conspire to kill a man. And this is really an interesting template into looking at Charlie Kirk's life. Roger has had a lot of questions over the past few days after the passing of Charlie Kirk. Roger, good to have you back on.
Now, before he gets started, one thing about the JFK situation or shooting that stood out to me is we need to pay attention to who rallies against the victims that are left behind, like Jacqueline Kennedy. Who was the first one to rally and to show their support, right? LBJ. Well, it comes out that LBJ is the he's not the trigger man, but he was the one that enabled the whole thing happen. Okay, we're not going to get into that, but that's kind of the basis to why this looks like one of the things that stand out about why this looks like the same thing that happened with JFK.
On the show.
Great to be with you. Having written this book on the Kennedy assassination, I've also just finished a book on the attempted assassination of President Ronald Reagan. I'll be out before the end of the year, I think by Christmas. Having studied very closely the assassinations of Senator Robert Kennedy and Dr. King, there's just a lot of recurring patterns.
Right.
Obviously, in the case of Kennedy, the lack of an exit wound has confounded historians and JFK researchers for decades. It's not possible for Syrian to have shot Senator Robert Kennedy. He was always in front of Kennedy. But the autopsy by Thomas Noguchi, one of the most respected pathologists and the LA medical examiner, said that RFK was shot at point blank range from behind in the lower left skull. That would be with the barrel right up against his skin. And in the case of Ronald Reagan, John Hinckley Jr. is always in front of Reagan, crouching, meaning bullets came from the front and an upward trajectory. Yet, as I will prove in medical records, Reagan was hit from above and behind. And so it is with Charlie Kirk. I've tried to focus on this as a two-part question. What happened? And then try to determine who was behind it. As you point out, the FBI has wrapped this up very quickly. They told us in 7 days. J. Edgar Hoover told us that Lee Harvey Oswald, a lone nut, a communist, that was his motive, killed JFK. Virtually no one believes that today. Once again, the FBI tells us a lone killer, a radicalized leftist shooting from the top of the building. But between the dissembling of his rifle, the changing of his clothes, there's a lot of questions there. And then I've really tried to consult with both doctors who are experts on bullet wounds, as well as sportsmen and marksmen, and virtually all of them question the lack of an exit wound. Very much
Right.
in the JFK situation would be very rare, given the facts that we've been presented. So, now you got all kinds of other theories. You've heard the theory that the driver of Kennedy's limousine turned around and shot him with a Derringer. That's not true. But you'll certainly find it all over the internet.
And we got to keep our heads about this whole, because with each one of these kind of things that happen, he's right. There's always going to be stories that we got to weed through that are just nonsense, right? So we got to keep our cool with this, and I'm with him. There's two parts to this: what happened and who did it. And so what happened? I don't buy the narrative. 30-06, are you kidding me? And we're gonna see some more footage on weapon systems. And you tell me, I'm going to show you an amazing reenactment, or actually a ballistics test on the Remington Fireball, and it makes a hole in a cinder block, and I want you to tell me what that looks like. Does it look like the wound? And there's another one where I think a guy's shooting a big piece of beef, and again, you tell me, is the ballistics lining up to a second shooter? It looks like it to me.
Now you hear word of trap doors, the possibility that he had an exploding microphone. I haven't even had time to look at those theories, but at this point, I think everything should be considered, and the people deserve the truth.
We learned over the past 24 hours that Charlie Kirk said that the Israelis provide the best security. And there's apparently a deleted portion of his interview with Bill Maher that has surfaced from April, where we learned that Charlie's security on the day of his assassination was an Israeli-owned or a Zionist.
All right, so let's talk about the security detail with JFK. Now, when you got a security detail, to pull something like this off and there to be a conspiracy, there has to be a failure in the security detail, right? So ultimately, these guys who are supposed to be professionals, and it's their job to stop something like this, I don't know if they did their due diligence and did their job. There should have been drones in the air. There should have been people monitoring the routes. There should have been a lot of things that, we see similarities in the attempted assassination of Trump. And here we go again.
Owned Schaefer Security Group, who apparently ended their contract with Turning Points USA back in 2022, but suddenly showed up for this event. I haven't been able to verify this yet. Have you heard any news about his security detail? Would you be looking at them in any way? I mean, we've heard from Frank, his right-hand man, that these guys were incredible. They grabbed him, threw him right in the truck. They threw him right in the SUV. They were incredible on that day.
Well, obvious questions. First of all, why was there no effort to seal off the crime scene?
Right.
You see people grabbing hats. You see the entire crime scene being contaminated. No security professional would have allowed that. Why the rush to remove the camera behind him? Why did it have to be done virtually immediately after he was slain? I find both those things, again, extraordinarily suspicious, given this vaunted reputation of his security team. And then all of look at those messages on Discord that are allegedly between Tyler Robinson and his transgender boyfriend.
And this is the rabbit hole that I've been warned about, that I got to be careful. That's what he's talking about. If you go down the rabbit hole of looking at the phrases on the bullets, it's going to take you to the same place I went. No one is talking about this group. But David from Value Entertainment did have Nick Fuentes on his show, but did not talk about the G Word group. And that's the word I'm not allowed to say, apparently. We're going to try to cover that. But again, Patzy, um, Oswald, Patzy. Oswald was pinned a Russian communist and a threat to the United States, yada, yada, yada. There's always a Patzy, right?
And girlfriend, whatever. They sure read like they were AI generated to me. They're a little too pat, a little too perfect. They certainly don't reflect somebody who's in a hurry by any means. Perfect grammar, perfect punctuation, a little strange. So again, I'm wondering whether, as in the Kennedy situation, we're being handed this package with a nice wrapped up bow, radicalized leftists acting alone from the top of the building, leaves a rifle where it can obviously be found, somehow disassembles it, reassembles it. Very strange, very, very strange.
Yesterday on the show, my lovely wife, co-host, broke down and kind of went through the timeline, which that has been one of the most troubling pieces of this, Roger, which is this weird, it happens on Wednesday, September 10th at 12:30, 12:23. 33 hours later, the alleged shooter turns himself in. Hours later, the roommate is picked up. And then Friday, right at 8 a.m., the governor of Utah comes right out at 8 a.m. So that 8-hour timeline after the roommate is picked up at 11:30 p.m. to the 8 a.m. the next morning, suddenly the Utah governor is out there at the podium saying, "We got him. We're all good. The roommate was released. Nothing to see here. We got our man and we're done." The timeline, that it really makes zero sense to us here at Redacted. But what do you make of the hours that had passed and the quickness? I mean, you're still investigating the Kennedy assassination from all of these decades later, but they're done in 8 hours after they get his roommate. We're done. We're good. Nothing to see here, Roger.
Yeah, no, it is interesting. Almost immediately after JFK was killed, uh, Lyndon Johnson is now president. It's before he's been sworn in, but he never needed to be sworn in. That was just to twist the knife in Bobby Kennedy, because he automatically became president upon John F. Kennedy being declared dead. So that whole scene that staged in Air Force One was completely unnecessary. Or it was to pass the imprimatur of power to LBJ and put Jacqueline Kennedy's stamp on it by making her stand there. She's heavily sedated, still splattered with her husband's blood. But in the immediate aftermath of Kennedy being killed at Parkland Hospital, the new president is in the elevator with Malcolm Kilduff, who's the spokesman for the president, the deputy press secretary. And Kilduff says to Johnson, "Who would do such a horrible thing, Mr. President? Who would kill our president?" And Johnson says, it was a Russian, son." He says, "A Russian? What kind of Russian?" "A Russian communist, son." Now, this is before the FBI has announced that Lee Harvey Oswald has been apprehended.
So how did LBJ know that? How did LBJ know that? It's because he was part of the conspiracy. He had the most to gain, and he was also the one that rallied against the widow, or rallied with, or standing by her side. Now, think about this situation. Who rallied? Who rallied the most? Who's got the most to gain? And I got a theory. I don't think Charlie Kirk was killed because of his beliefs. I got a feeling he was killed because somebody didn't want him to be president at some point, and he would have run for president at some point. And he would have, if he had ran against, or let's say he runs against, or would have ran against Vance. Vance and he would have split the Christian vote, right? So anyway, I digress.
Movie before.
Right. We're getting this information. We're also getting news reports before we had official confirmation from overseas. We've seen this before. We saw this in the case of, I think, of the Kennedy assassination. We've seen this in other cases as well, on 9/11. Reports pouring in from overseas before the United States even had a chance to.
A book being published a couple of days before. Yeah.
Bond. I guess one of the other big pieces of this, I want to kind of circle back on this exit wound piece. So many online sort of keyboard cowboys are trying to, point out that he was shot from the side. that this exit with what you see in his neck, of course, is the exit wound. That he was shot in the chest, it traveled up, hit his spinal column, and exited through his neck. That's piece of the fragment from the exit wound. Your focus has been on this exit wound question. So, what do you make of the videotapes of him being shot and speaking to the different experts that you've been speaking to?
They all point out that in their belief, there should have been a more prominent exit wound and some blood splatter from that exit. Virtually every doctor I've talked to who specializes in gun wounds, in gunshots, have said the same thing. Now,
in other words, that big white tarp that was behind him should have been painted with his blood and his bodily fluids.
Some have argued that the ammunition, the round, may have not been what we think it is, but almost all of them have said we need not just an autopsy, but we need a what they call a CT, a comptology study that basically does a computer image of the body from every angle, and that would be extraordinarily telling. Now, they're rarely done on people who have actually been killed. They're usually done on people who are still alive and still that they're trying to save. But in this case, every doctor I've talked to thought that would be necessary to try to determine the actual cause of death and the whether he was killed by a bullet and whether that bullet had a specific upward or downward trajectory.
What about the medical examiner's report, Roger? Where are we at with that? And we saw in the case of Matthew Crooks after Butler, Pennsylvania, his body was cremated almost, pretty quickly.
Immediately.
His apartment was wiped clean. Do you think we're in the same mode of a cover-up here, or do you think we're actually going to see a medical examiner's report in full details and transparency?
Well, I think this is the great beauty of the internet. I mean, they were able to keep a very focused and controlled narrative regarding John F. Kennedy's murder, for example.
Because there was no internet, there was no cell phones, and people had like old cameras, and again, the similarities, but also some differences. There was no internet at that time. We have the internet now, so everybody in the world has seen this, and in high definition, and in many different angles. Unlike with JFK, so the JFK narration was controllable for more than 50 years, even though there was conspiracy theories. They deny. And now we know in hindsight, after everybody is dead that was involved, basically it was all a sham, that there was two shooters, and the shot that came from behind did not kill him. It was a shot from the front. There was more than one shooter at Kennedy's assassination, right?
Still have so many unanswered questions about Butler, Pennsylvania, yet we've moved on in a certain sense. Very few people still asking those questions. I think this remains to be seen. The government has their narrative, but let's take an example. The Wall Street Journal breathlessly reported that one of the casing shells had some transgendered slogan or theme on it. Yet the government's claim is that there was just one Antifa-oriented etching on one of the shells.
Not Antifa.
Understand which one of those is correct. I think the Wall Street Journal is wrong, but then that would determine or show that the narrative that they want us to choose is that transgendered activism, radicalism is responsible.
That's what they want us to believe, right?
For the killing of Charlie Kirk.
That's what they want us to believe. Okay, so again, so much like the JFK assassination, where they want us to believe a narrative, and they're going to hand it to us with a big bow on it, and this is what happened, yada, 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 right? All right, so Patrick Ben-David's show, Valuetainment. This was interesting to me. One more clip, and then we're going to look at some bullet stuff. Here's what they said over here.
About Charlie Kirk. That's the one, right? Is that the one we're talking about? That conversation? Yeah, that was, and from my opinion, Patrick, this dude and a bunch of shooters and a bunch of snipers, and me and Tom actually had a conversation last night. Never go with the official narrative. And when you're seeing different angles, and me and Mike have been talking about this too, and I don't want to show close-ups or anything like that, Pat, because I don't want to they blur his face, but it's still graphic. You're going to see something on Charlie's right side, like a little blood spat on the right side, and it looks like an exit wound.
See this, Tom? Yes, I did. I was watching a report by appeared to be a very rational and specific ex-military, a gentleman from Turkey that was talking about the forensics.
This guy? Yeah, this is the guy. No, there's another one.
There's another guy. This guy is equally sane, and he's saying, hey, look, that appears to me to be an exit wound. And when I go and look at this, by the way, Kash Patel said on Sunday that the FBI is looking at leads, including the location of the shot and the angle of the bullet, potentially a second shooter. And that's what Kash Patel said on the Sunday news show. So this does not appear, Pat, that it's one.
They say that Kash Patel said there's a second shooter.
Yes, sir.
Rob, can you zoom in a little bit, please? I'm 46. Thank you. Committed to ensuring the investigation to Charlie's assassination person. The full weight of Americans law enforcement is active following them extended. We are meticulously investigating theories and questioning includes the location where the shot was taken, the possibility of accomplices, text messages, confessions, related conversations, Discord chats, and the angle of the shot and bullet impact, how the weapon was transported, hand gesture observed as potential signals near Charlie. So they're doing all of that. Okay, that's
and
great.
They're saying where the shot was taken.
Some details are known today, while others are still being pursued to ensure every possibility is considered. Our primary focus is complete investigation. Information will ensure regarding specific details such as questions about the plane, regarding the turning off transponder the assassination side. We can share updates. Okay, can you show the clip, Rob? Just let's watch the first 2 minutes of the clip, folks. I think it's important for this. Is this where do you want to start from it, Rob? That is.
Okay, so go back. Pat, this is actually wild because you see a flash.
Okay, let him explain it.
Yeah,
let him explain it. Go ahead.
You can tell me, but
We're going to actually look at the same information as well.
And in that video, you can see the same.
I want you to notice where he's highlighting is a lower angle than what some of the other guys are saying. Okay, some of the other guys are saying that the angle was on top of the roof. That's too much of an angle because of this. Charlie was sitting onto the far left side of this tarp tent thing. So if the person was on the roof at that point, he would not have been able to see Charlie. It's more likely he was at another angle, something like this.
See the bullet coming down, and it does line up with the actual gunshot itself. Upcoming game violence.
hold on. So
This video was.
You guys see that flash? All right, so here's what we're talking about. All right, so this is not on the roof. This is the catwalk that goes to the roof over here, you guys. But underneath, between where the stairwell is, there's a wall here. And inside here, and this is the right angle too. So if he was shot from behind, this is the trajectory.
Created by a friend of mine who is a Marine. You'll see him here at the end. This is the angle he is showing the shot coming from.
All right, now this looks a little weird here because that is not the angle. I mean, he's trying to draw it, but it would be more of like this because this is the area that we're talking about here, up here, not on the roof. This is going toward the roof. Here's what we're talking about, but we're only seeing a really small piece. This is where the guy would be standing right here. So he'd be up a little higher, not at this angle, but the bullet would have come, potentially from one side of his head, downward angle and coming out. Then that's one theory. I'm not exactly there yet, guys, because the way this could have been an entry wound too, and I'm going to show you that with some test shots from the weapon that I suspect that there's something similar to this weapon. I don't think it's exact weapon, but something similar, something like a .22 caliber. And I got reasons for that. You're going to see that in just a moment. Hang tight, folks.
Where Charlie was sitting and the angle of the shot will correspond with this video here, which unfortunately we will blur out Charlie's face, but we will show what is necessary to prove that this was an entry and exit wound. So,
all right, so let's think about that. He's saying the entry wound was here. So a downward angle, where would that come out? Downward angle, we're talking like a downward angle, not through the front of his face, but the back side, behind his eyes, and down off the neck that way.
You'll see him circle the highlighted area right there, and you'll
see the see that
corresponding after, split second after, as it would.
All right. So we saw the splatter there. So let's say that it went in this way, that you could see a line here. Otherwise, how can we explain this little bit of blood? And by the way, this is the white tarp backdrop behind him. If he was shot with a 30-06 from the front, it would have first of all severed his head from his shoulder, and extreme catastrophic, spraying of body fluid onto the tarp there. Completely different. This is a precision shot.
From an entry and exit wound. So in this footage, you can clearly see that Charlie is shot from his back right.
Guys, pause.
And there is
I just
blood.
wanted to let you guys know it's a little bit of his graphic.
A little graphic.
So, but keep going. If you're able to take it, I want to watch a little bit through for you to kind of hear this. Keep going.
Splatter coming out of the entry wound immediately after a shot. The first arc is kind of down as if it's just gushing out from the entry wound. And the second shot corresponds with when his head kind of snaps forward. That fluid then flips up in relation to that motion. So
and also, let me just say this: even if it isn't a straight line, and we could better tell this if we had a CAT scan or something like that of the wound. Luckily, the FBI, and this is where they boxed themselves into a corner. They say they had the round was stopped, and it was stopped by his vertebrae, and it was just on the outside of the skin. So that means we got a bullet. We need to see that bullet. Okay.
you can see there's that second splatter flipping up into the air. This is something that I hadn't seen to this date. I saw this for the first time late in the evening yesterday, and I decided that this needed to be put out immediately because no one that I know of is talking about this. So big shout out to my friend who actually found this and created this video. You'll see him here in just a moment, but let's just one more time look at this shot. You see bullet comes in that circled area. You have the blood splatter go down.
So like I was saying, even if it wasn't a straight line, like through and through, a 22 round, any kind of though, even with velocity behind it, it has a tendency to bounce off bone and ricochet. Okay, so imagine if it went in and ricocheted off of a bone and changed direction, and so there's a number of ways we can get from point A to point B. All right,
down, then up, and then immediately after, you see the exit right here with the skin being pierced, and then the exit wound emerges. And again, that is not a far distance for a bullet to travel, whatever the caliber is, whether it be 5.56, 308, 30-06. It's not even a debate at this point. It doesn't matter what caliber killed him. What matters is that the official narrative is not true. Again, whether the FBI knows or not that they're lying.
Well, I agree there. I think the caliber does matter. It does. It most definitely matters.
But this is 100% conclusive evidence that Charlie Kirk was shot in the back of the head, and it exited through the front of his throat. All of the evidence points to Charlie being shot from his back.
By the way, it's now. And can we give the guy credit? Can you zoom out so I can just take who he is?
Range day, bro, and look at the views. It's not like it's not a kook. He has 214,000 subscribers. At least he's breaking it down and giving us a
range day, bro. Great analysis. Seems like a reasonable guy. Vinny, go ahead.
And I just want to ask one question too. And God rest his soul to Charlie, because I know where he is. But is there no autopsy report?
I was just gonna ask.
Is there like, and I get it. Thanks, Adam. It's early, and I get it. But we want to see. It's not.
We want to see the bullet. We want to see it.
And the fact that you made a great point and this is when we were there, when they came out with his bones were a man of steel. Don't ever try to gaslight us.
Right.
In that type of situation. Because if it's a 30-06 at 200 yards, I didn't want to show it to Robbie. They had a dummy at him, but like it's like the skin of like a human, and it's set up. It blew the whole neck completely off. Okay, and what I'm saying is, just with all these little pieces, and I keep going back to this. We talked about this last night. George Zinn, you mean the old guy that was down there? Yeah. You mean to tell me that the guy that was at 9/11 that had ties to the Boston bombing? It's a 1 in 2 billion chance. He's just at a Charlie Kirk speech in Utah, and immediately upon seeing and hearing Charlie get shot, he says, I did it, kill me. Now that to me proves without a shadow of a doubt that there was another person involved, which you know what that accounts, what it actually is, and that the official, and I'm not saying the FBI's where they're behind it, because obviously the guy in the roof and run and a diversion and a distraction. But guys, there's a lot of questions that need to be asked. And I hope the FBI and Cash Patel and Dan Bongino and that crew are going to get to the bottom of this for Charlie's sake, because like you said, there is no autopsy that none of us know about, and I think we deserve it.
And I think, by the way, well, I'm sorry, Tom, one of the things that I saw in another video, I don't know if you saw this, Tom, the fact that the shooter we followed that jumps off, there's videos that there was never a shot fired from him.
No, exactly.
There's also another video making that claim. Now, this
All right, so I said it's possibly the same thing. If this guy's a patsy and it is indeed not him, I don't believe he fired a shot at all. Not at all.
This the one, I think that's the one that you had, that there's
Yeah,
not
Pat,
a
where's
shot
him
fired
getting up?
from
Yeah,
him.
where's him getting
Yeah,
up?
so again, we don't know. We don't know. This is the beautiful part about
questions.
The beautiful part about having an assassination done in 2025 versus 1963 or any of that. We have cameras everywhere. You can't fool the people today. Go ahead, Tom.
So I also read some other forensic things last night. It was very interesting that you see what happens is if that bullet is correct from the rear, that means it went right through his spine. And the exit wound is just cataclysmic. That is exactly consistent with how it would happen. And you see Charlie, the flinch up is the right shoulder flinching up, but then you see his hands go into the fencing position, which is the neurological response when you suffer a major concussion or basically
you see it on fighters and football players. Their hands.
You sever the spinal cord. There's a nerve reaction. That's exactly what you saw from him. And so, shot from the front. I found the bullet below the surface. I've seen those little statements. Wait, where's the official autopsy report? Let's see that. Let's get this going. And by the way, now I'll go into, Pat, the what if. You know what? Maybe this guy was radicalized. He's up there. He's going to take a shot. And then he sees the shot. He sees what happens. Everybody's going bonkers. And he runs off the roof.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's what I think happened, guys. And the reason I say that is because it looked to me like it was not coordinated, choreography. It was the timing of it, the timing of the question he was being asked to the moment he was killed seemed very timed. It seemed like someone was trying to send a message, right? Especially when you discover, oh, we got him, and oh, by the way, right? He loves femboys and transgenders, right? I don't know, guys. What do you think? Because it stinks of something bad to me.
Takes a shot. Where's the bullet?
Great point.
Or where's the?
That's a great point. He was like the Oswald.
Was he set up as a patsy?
Yeah.
And then but let's step that aside.
Great point.
Just look at the forensics. Cash Patel and company. You need, if you're gonna do a real investigation here, you need to talk to American people about that autopsy report. Because if there's a hole behind his ear and that this is open, then where's the projectile?
Right.
It's
well,
the
no.
below the chair.
No, they said the spine stopped. The doctor found it on the underside of the skin, on the other side of the spine. So they have the round. There's no question they have the round. All right. Otherwise, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, so where'd it go? If they don't have it, where'd it go? Because the doctor said that he found the bullet just beneath the skin.
I love, you know what I love about the way this guy speaks? Okay, go to his clip again, Rob, on the way the gentleman did the clip you showed about the military guy.
The range day, bro.
Yeah, range day,
And
bro.
the Turkish guy speaks the same way.
Just listen to the way he speaks, okay? Listen to the way he speaks, his tone, okay? His tone, which is there is value in this. Just open it up and let him speak.
I now have acquired proof that the FBI's official story is false, whether knowingly or unknowingly. We're going to have an entire monologue and talk about a lot of these things after I show you this. But if you take nothing else away from this video,
look at the opening statement. Look at the
ladies and gentlemen, I now have acquired proof that the FBI's official story is false, whether knowingly or unknowingly.
Right there. Okay, what does it sound like? A reasonable guy that's giving his belief and it's false, knowing whether it's knowingly or under. So he's not saying They did it.
Great point.
They're hiding. So we need more recognition of guys like this that delivered. I don't know who he is. So
At all.
all of a sudden people are gonna come back and say, let me tell you, made another video, maybe follow this.
Yeah.
So I've been watching a bunch of the same guys. I've been watching the Valhalla guy on TikTok, and I've saved several videos. I want to look at a couple of them, especially one talks about the angle and talks about the area. Let me just take you there, you guys. This one here.
All right, Candace Owens, I hope you're paying attention. This video is for you. This is the University of
And notice that area where he was sitting in this amphitheater. If you rotate that around, guys, that looks like a menorah.
Utah, where Charlie Kirk was assassinated, UVU. And this is the story, the bogus story they told us to believe that the shooter was on the roof, and that's where the shot was, where the shot came from. But now looking at the new footage we have, and the people doing their own investigative.
All right. So what he's going to be talking about now is talking about this bush. There's grainy video where somebody thinks that there's a shooter here. That's too high up, you guys. That is too high up. I can tell that just from looking from this way, that the angle is too extreme that way. This is the catwalk I was just telling you about. That's leads to the roof there. Here's the stairwell that goes down. The guy was probably standing right here underneath this catwalk right here. Not on the roof, not on this place here, but probably here. He had cover. He had cover from most of the crowd. The only ones that could see him would be extremely over this way over here. All right.
Work, which is a lot better than the three-letter agencies have been doing. I could tell you beyond a shadow of doubt, this shot came from right side back of Charlie, okay, where my mouse cursor is.
I don't think it was
right,
up there.
From this side over here.
Too high.
This is the trajectory, the path, the bullet.
So that tent would have blocked a view of Charlie's upper. He would have only been able to see Charlie's, from here down at that angle, folks. Use common sense.
Took, and it hit his backside of the head, came out of his left side carotid artery. The bullet did come out. There's video evidence of that as well. The medical coroner or the doctor who said that the bullet stayed lodged in his neck is another liar and is a cover.
Right. All right. So here's where I'm talking about. This is not the roof here that we're looking at. This is, but all right, so that stairwell that goes up, you see the one part going down there. All right. So up in here, the catwalk up top, the roof would be up here. So this is a more correct angle. And by this point, they have taken down the tent. Which they shouldn't have done that at all. So I did see a few other, like this guy here.
These kids, everyone in that amphitheater would have immediately gone, oh, it would have sounded like a bomb going off. But these kids didn't even flinch.
That's what I said. If you hear a 30-06 in an amphitheater with, and by the way, it would have been difficult to tell where the shot came from with all the echoing and reverberation off of that area. It would be very difficult. Now this needs to be said. You could still measure acoustics, and a computer program can decipher what is the echo and what is the actual report and all those kinds of things. And I've seen, I'm gonna try to pull up a video here in a moment where a Marine guy, a shooter, does the math on the acoustics, and in his calculations, he says that the shooter had to be between 0 and 30 feet from Charlie at the time. And that fits with the stairwell shot.
Which tells me it was most likely a small caliber round or suppressed round, be it a pistol round, be it a suppressed 5.56 round. That's what that reaction tells me. That reaction from
all right, suppressed 5.56 round. That would be, Caltech makes a pistol round, sort of like what I'm going to show you, the Fireball. that's very small and very accurate. And there are some shooter guys, 22 Plinkster on YouTube. That guy can shoot from the hip and hit bullseyes, 50 feet away, shooting from the hip. No drawdown in sights. You understand? This guy, so there are people that can, shoot from they're not aiming. They're just kind of pointing because they are so accurate and they know the weapon system so well they can put it on a dime. Right? So there are guys like that. They used to call them trick shooters. Right?
It's none of them even flinched when that gunshot went off. And this isn't even the end of the suspiciousness. It was an absolute miracle that someone else didn't get killed. His bone was so healthy and the density was so impressive that he's like the man of steel. It should have just gone through and through. It likely would have killed those standing behind him too. In the end, the coroner did find the bullet just beneath the skin. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. And
all right, so if this was pre-planned, let's say they wanted to plan a conspiracy and they already picked out the weapon that they're going to frame on the person, and it's a 30-30. Supposed to be a headshot, ends up being a neck shot, and oh wow, how do we explain this? Because we've already told him it's a 30-30, and oh, by the way, if it was a 30-30, by gosh, I hope nobody figures this out. It would have removed his head. What do we do now? Oh wow, he's a man of steel. His bones were unlike anybody else. And oh, by the way, this is the miracle. Really, I wouldn't call it, just like he says, I wouldn't call that a miracle at all. Let's listen to what he says here.
The official narrative surrounding the Charlie Kirk situation has just taken a pivot into absolute ridiculous insanity la la land that I'm shocked that what I'm going to show you is real, but it is. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this post that was put out by Turning Point USA, declaring that yes, Charlie Kirk was Superman. He's the man of steel. His bones are so dense that they're made of steel. I guess he had the, X-Men Wolverine adamantium infusion into his skeleton. Because yes, this is actually what is being put out. So yeah, here you go, Fox News Today. Man of Steel. Charlie Kirk's body stopped a bullet that would typically just go through everything. It was an absolute miracle nobody else was killed. His surgeon told Turning Point USA, and another one surgeon says Charlie Kirk's neck stopped a bullet from killing anyone else. He's like the man of steel. Okay, we're going to talk everything in this. We're going to talk ballistics. We're going to talk anatomy. We're going to talk physics. And we're going to look at the actual post Turning Point put out here in a second. I'm blown away by how stupid this is. They are now going to tell us that Charlie Kirk took a 30-06 round to the neck from 150 yards, and his neck stopped the bullet. No exit wound, no pass-through. They found the bullet just beneath the skin. I'm going to show you some new ballistic tests with 30-06 against human bone here in a second. But let's look at the actual post. Guys, to be honest, I had some people send me this last night when it first dropped. I remember sitting on the couch next to my wife. She showed it to me. I read it and I said, oh, that's so dumb. That's obviously fake. There's no way that's real. And I just moved on with it because it was just so outrageously stupid that there was no way. There was no way that this was a real post. And then I wake up this morning to hundreds of you guys emailing me and messaging me this exact thing, that yes, this is in fact real. And I believe, as far as I know, Andrew Colvett here is the executive producer at Turning Point. And he put this post out last night. Let's make our way through it. All right, here we go. I want to address some of the discussion about the lack of an exit wound with Charlie. I'm usually not interested in delving into most of this kind of online chatter, and I apologize, this is somewhat graphic, but in this case, the fact that there wasn't an exit wound is probably another miracle, and I want people to know. I just spoke with the surgeon who worked on Charlie in the hospital. That seems weird because that's a violation of HIPAA, but okay, let's keep moving. He said the bullet absolutely should have gone through, which is very, very normal for a high-powered, high-velocity round, for a 30-06 round. Yes, it is. I've seen wounds from this caliber many times, and it was an absolute miracle.
All right, so again, a lot of weird stuff. A lot of weird stuff on this. Let me look for you guys. I'm gonna look for the acoustics test here. Just give me 1 second. And here we go. Here we go. And the question to him is, what if we assume that the bullet was a 22 long? All right, so he's going to do a calculation on that and show us what he's got.
Ballistics of a 22 long range on average. This one's going to really open your eyes. And it's going to open your eyes because those handgun rounds are going to fall in the same category. Now, if you remember from our previous calculations, we have to subtract the speed of sound from the speed of the bullet, which is how we got the 1575 to then divide the product that we got from these multiplied by each other, which is the speed of sound times the speed of the bullet, times the interval, which is 0.5, which is
0.58 hundredths.
5 tenths and 8 hundredths of a second. I hate doing decimals. It's hard to say. But this is where this is going to open your eyes. Now, remember, this has a margin of error between anywhere between 30 to 50 feet. So margin of error, when we came up with this 372 yards, that was 1,118 feet. 1,118 feet, give or take 30 to 50 feet, plus or minus. Either way, still puts us close to 372 yards, 350 yards. Not in the ballpark of 142 yards of what they said. If we do this same calculations for a 22 round, if we subtract the speed of a 22 round on average, which is 1,125 feet per second, the speed of sound is 1,125 feet per second. That's going to give us 0. So if we take that and we multiply it, we're going to get 1,265,625 times the interval, which is, regardless, it's going to put us at 0. Because 0 divided by anything is 0. That means the shooter was anywhere between 0 to 30 to 50 feet away from Charlie when he was shot.
So you can use math with the acoustics alone on here and see this smells like something is off, you guys. Really. So how can we be that close? How can we be that close and get off a round without nobody knowing, without anybody seeing it? And we don't know where it came from because, by the way, we're in an amphitheater. So it literally sounds like the shot came from everywhere. So yeah, let's go to the Remington Fireball, because this reminds me so much of the John F. Kennedy assassination that I kept coming back to, thinking it was something smaller like this, even though a Remington Fireball fires the 221, 222, which was, I think they did away with that, but it's basically a 22 round with a lot of power behind it. And I saw a test that Kentucky Ballistics does that looks eerily similar to the damage we see in Charlie's neck. So let me introduce you to the Remington Fireball. And again, I'm not saying this is the weapon. I'm saying it's probably something similar to the Remington Fireball. You see how small and compact this is? You could hide this down your pants, folks. It only weighs about 3 pounds. You could fire this and from a concealed spot and walk away and nobody would know anything. And that's exactly what James Files did in 1963. He got away because why? We were preoccupied with the other shooter, right? The Lee Harvey Oswald. By the way, here's the picket fence that James Files was behind. You can go and I got his whole interview if you want to see that. This is where he killed Kennedy, from behind this fence with a fireball, and walked away from it. The grassy knoll. This is it right here. All right. This is what it looks like. Again, very precise. I think this was for the long time held the record to the most precise handheld, high-powered, high-velocity pistol on the market. Right. So let's take a look. This guy right here first, and then we're going to look at Kentucky Ballistics. He does amazing on shit.
Welcome back to Guns Up Review. Today we're going to have an experimental XP100, which stands for
So it's called XP100 or experimental. This was an experimental weapon that Remington came out with. Very accurate. It's deadly.
Experimental pistol. This pistol was produced from 1963.
See those rounds right there?
Until about 1998. And if you're a
See those rounds?
theorist, this is the pistol that was used on the grassy knoll in Dealey Plaza to actually kill President Kennedy. Not this exact one. These were initially developed in 222. This particular example here is in 221 Fireball. So here's kind of an example of the rounds. This is a 22-250 round, which is a pretty mean little round. Then you've got, this is just a regular 223 or 5.56.
All right, so you see how long you might not be able to get an idea. I'm going to try to hold this up and see, but the tip of this pencil right here, right? So the tip of this pencil, you see how small, and it's white. Let's show my back screen. Anyway, it's very small, you guys. The entrance hole is, if there's some expansion, will only be, something like that. Otherwise, it's going to be a pinhole. Not saying that it's not devastating, but you're going to see the guy from Kentucky Ballistics shoot a cinder block from like 30 feet away, and it doesn't penetrate all the way through. Interesting. It's got enough to kill, but not go through a cinder block, and it leaves well, I'll just let you see in just a moment.
Magnum, a Remington Magnum, which is no longer produced. This in ballistic tip is the 221 Fireball. So you can kind of see the projectile size is the same. Case is quite a bit different.
Let's go to the point where
this is about a 10 and a half.
We don't need to know about the schematics and all that kind of stuff. We're going to go to the range and hear I want you to hear what it sounds like.
221 Fireball in XP 100. We're going to see if we can hit a nickel at 100 yards.
Again,
see how many shots it takes.
I'm not saying that this is the weapon, but this reminds me so much of the JFK that it was probably something very similar, maybe a Caltech 5.56, something like that. I don't know, 223. It's something small and concealable. Again, we can conceal things. Anyway.
Thanks. Got a camera down there on the target. If we hit it, we may have trouble finding it, but let's see what we can do. Here we go.
See if we can hear the sound. Most of you probably know what a 22. This is a little louder than a 22, but not as loud as a 30-30. And it's a crack.
Bad thing is I can't see the target, so I don't know if I've hit it or not. We'll shoot 5 and go see what's happening.
So this is basically a rifle, a long rifle that you hold in your hand. And it's not suppressed. It does not have a suppressor on it, but I would imagine you could probably put a suppressor on it. All right, I think Kentucky Ballistics has got a better, I'm trying to hold my mic on there for you guys to hear. Let me get his video up for you so you can see. This one's a little better. You can hear it. You can actually see the damage it does. Here we go. Excuse me. All right, Kentucky Ballistics. We're looking at the 221 Fireball. So we're just going to go right to you. You guys want to see the whole video, I'll put it down below. You can see. We're going to see what he does at a very close range. Right, this is a regular 22 in his hand, and then a Fireball in the other.
Long rifle. Then we'll shoot the bottle on the right with our 221 Fireball. And I hope I can hit it because this is my first time shooting this pistol.
Clean shot all the way through, no devastation. It's through and through, right? Now here's the Fireball.
Fireball.
Notice the sound. All right, so a water bottle, no question. devastated.
Okay, here's the one ball we shot with the 22. Just kind of went in and out.
And then he shoots about 7 pieces of wood here that are together. Interesting about this, a 30-06 would go through all of it, devastate this whole thing. This whole thing would explode. All right, so keep that in mind.
All right, we got our wood set up. We'll shoot with the 22 and then the 221 Fireball.
See that entrance? Here's a fireball. Small entrance. Again.
Let's go check it out. All right, let's see what we got. I'm pretty sure I hit right here with the 221 Fireball, and this was the 22 long.
Notice how they looked at, because we're talking about 22 rounds. This one just has more kick behind it, more dope, more grains. This is a regular 22 long, right? Same entrance.
Long rifle. So here's our first piece. Both rounds made it through. Here's our second piece. Both rounds made it through. Third piece. Looks like our 22
was stopped.
Stopped.
Regular 22 was stopped with 2 pieces of wood. 221 went through, but it didn't go all the way through, folks.
Kept going. Kept going.
And look at here. There it is.
It stopped.
Stopped it.
Went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
6
Stopped.
pieces.
Nope.
6 pieces, and it looks like 1-inch board. So 6 inches of wood stopped it. Now 30-30 from 200 yards, folks, going to go clean through this. Is going to be devastating, and that back side of the wood is going to be massive. You'll be able to put your fist through it.
Number 6. And started to go in number 7, but stopped in number 6. Let's see if we can get.
So this would be just under the skin. You understand?
Out of there. There you go.
Completely different round than a 30-06, folks. Even though that looks like a lot of lead, right? It's still a 22 round with a little more juice behind it.
No, I need to cut my fingernails. I don't need to hear it from you.
Now I want you to see what it looks like when he does the cinder blocks, folks, because this stood out to me.
All right, now let's shoot a cinder block. Same thing again. 22 long rifle first, then the 221 Fireball.
Regular 22. Here's the Fireball. Notice the difference. Is there anything else that you notice about this? It did not go all the way through. It only penetrated this much of cinder block. And these are brittle, by the way, guys. 30-06, this thing would have exploded. The whole thing would have just blew up. Look at the size of that hole. What does that remind you of?
Pretty big difference there. Actually, you know what? I kind of hit the middle of that cinder block of that 22. I'm going to shoot it one more time.
I want you to see this when he walks up.
We hit 22 first, and I noticed that we kind of hit it in the support area of the cinder block. So we shot it one more time, but still really didn't make a difference. I did crack.
Barely cracked. So that the regular 22 barely cracked through this very porous cinder block. All right.
A little, but didn't really do much to that cinder block. But our 221 Fireball.
Look at the hole.
Look, a nice hole.
All right. That you could put your finger in.
Through the front of that cinder block.
Look at.
Now, I didn't make it through the other side.
Did not go through the other side, folks. So, again, just under the skin, right? The kinetic force was not enough to go through a very brittle cinder block. That is the 221 Fireball. Again, I'm not saying that it was a Fireball. because now we have hundreds of handguns made by many different manufacturers that could basically do the same thing. Okay. But that was, in fact, the weapon James Files killed Kennedy with. And he went more than 50 years, 60 years without anybody. He's never been arrested. Everybody's dead in this. And by the way, I think he was in his 20s when this happened. He was contracted, he was a contract hitman for Sam Giancana from Chicago. Kennedy's father, Joe Kennedy, had a deal with Sam Giancana if he could get his son elected. And by the way, go look at it historically. It was Chicago that pulled a Florida with Bush and stole the election. Kennedy did steal the election. He then betrayed Sam Giancana by both of his sons went after the mob, and both sons were killed. Government sanctioned, though. The CIA knew about it. George Bush Sr. Was involved. There's a lot of people involved that are no longer around, folks. But if you're interested, I got a couple of James Files videos where he's I think he's still alive. He was in prison. You know, he's been in prison most of his life, but he gives the whole story and tells exactly what happened. Very interesting story. Again, 2 shooters in the JFK assassination. I think something's going on here with this. Again, I've been warned about this rabbit hole that I'm studying, going down, and preparing a presentation for you guys. I'm also working on codes, corresponding to it, but I have to play it. After what I've been through and getting almost canceled a couple of times on YouTube for talking about the virus and all that kind of stuff, man, I got to be careful with some things that I say. And there's definitely, with the players involved, not just the Patzy or Patzies, because there's a whole group, but the actual ones who orchestrated this. If I hit too close to that, there might not be any more Jonathan around. So I got to be really careful. So be looking for that coming up. Be praying for us, pray for the school and what we got going on. We're working really hard to try to get a new school up and new software. So appreciate any help with that, you guys, in form of financial help or prayer. Keep us in prayer every week, you guys. It's one day at a time, 1 week at a time kind of thing. And we're going to get to our objective at some point. So stick around for that. Shalom to you. See you in the next video.